every single year. We even call them going home bills. Why do we do that to ourselves?
Nothing like waiting for the final days to decide on something brought up on the very first day. The state legislature is one day and at least one bill closer to going home after passing one of Governor Little's pet projects and paying for updating Idaho's K-12 schools. As for education after K-12, another going home bill got the green light from the House. For another year, Governor Little's Idaho Launch program will be funded by a few more votes than last year. So many forts at this year's Treefort Music Festival, including one that has been kind of at the center of political controversy in Idaho lately. We take you to Dragfort for a history lesson. Well, this was the Showdown at the Statehouse that's been building for, well, nearly 3 months. Not quite OK Corral caliber, but a square-off between both chambers and both branches of government at the Capitol. Today, the Senate finally stepped forward and said, well, I'll be a huckleberry, after House Bill 521 sat idle on the Senate calendar for 2 weeks. This is the historic $2 billion 10-year plan Governor Little laid out in his State of the State address on January 8th to take some burden off local property taxes to pay for school buildings. And this is kind of how it will break down. It's going to move some of the sales tax revenue into this school modernization facilities fund. It's going to lower the overall tax rate from 5.8% to 5.695%. And it's going to reduce the income or the corporate income tax rate as well, and just kind of shift some money around to help kind of alleviate all of the money we've been paying in property taxes to pay for schools, and finally fulfill the state's constitutional duty to maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free, common schools, which is Article 9, Section 1 of the Constitution that says the state legislature is required to fund public schools, and many interpret that to include facilities, something the state hasn't been doing. They've been told they haven't been doing it by the state Supreme Court. That happened decades ago. So why has it taken so long? Well, we were being told behind the scenes of this session it was being held hostage for other legislation to get a look. More on that in a moment, but it seems time was finally on the side of schools today.
The can we're kicking is getting heavier and we're running out of road.
The latest kick,
let's make this priority number one,
came on day one.
My Idaho Works plan proposes the largest investment ever in school facility construction and our maintenance match, $2 billion.
And finally, on day 74 of the session.
But this is an investment, in our schools.
The major concern I had was the borrowing aspect.
But we know that Salmon has had 14 failed bonds.
House Bill 521 faced its final legislative hurdle, passage on the Senate floor.
Especially as we are making new investments in our schools, transportation infrastructure, et cetera, as our population has grown.
Several senators had an issue with the size of the bill.
We create these behemoth bills that we all talk about the single subject rule on.
Others concerned about the timing.
There's a couple hundred bills from across the rotunda that have numbers bigger than 521. But every single year we do this, and we put ourselves in the corner. We have this sense of urgency, like we got to pass it, we got to pass it. Do we really?
But they all realized its importance.
Yeah, so it's a monumental concern. I mean, right from the get-go, you hear about it when he talks about it at the State of the State. You know it's going to be important.
Let's dedicate the $2 billion in school facilities now to modernize school infrastructure and address unmet critical maintenance.
Senator Bjerke said his worry was with the bill dictating how many days a week a school was in session and certain funding mechanisms.
So despite your problems, you said, sure.
And that's the toughest thing. I'm fairly new at this, so I'm wrestling down there, and you literally come to a point where you could just go to one side or the other. And I don't know if people realize, they think that most everybody has their mind made up before they get to the floor. I don't. I really want to make sure. There's some things I'm pretty hard and fast on, but I listen to the debate.
It will reduce local property taxes. It will reduce personal income taxes. This is a huge step in the right direction that we want to go with our school facilities.
I am going to vote for the bill, but I'm hoping that we'll come back and make some adjustments that will benefit rural Idaho. I think we left a lot to be done there.
We should do it right, and we should do it right the first time. We shouldn't hope that we can come back and change it next year. We shouldn't hope that somehow our districts we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna solve the problem for us. This is our time. This is our time to get it right.
Grove.
So in spite of most
Guthrie.
pointing out its problems,
The vote count shows 23 in favor with 11 against and 1 absent. A majority
the can
affirmative. House Bill number 521 has passed the Senate.
now lands on the governor's desk. Probably little chance Governor Little kicks this can to the curb. After all, this is what he wanted. He did celebrate today, today's Senate win, that is, with a release of a statement referring back to his State of the State. Governor Little wrote, "Thank you and congratulations to the legislature for supporting this historic investment in the education and future of Idaho children. Together we delivered," he said. "Together we secured the largest ever investment in school facilities funding in state history, while giving families back more of their hard-earned money with property and income tax relief." Of course, there are still 4 Senate trailer bills linked to House Bill 521 that would address the 4 or 5-day school week requirement, could put a cap of $100 million on distribution per district, and could delay the funding for another fiscal year. Those may or may not get a hearing in the short time we have left, and they could fix some of the issues brought up today on the Senate floor. But with just about a week left, as we mentioned, we won't have to wait long to see if that happens, so we'll see. Okay, so the other bill being held captive until these final days, House Bill 722. This is the one that would fund the program near and dear to the governor's heart, the Idaho Launch Program. This is where Joe Paris joins us now. Joe, Idaho Launch passed by a single vote in the House last year. Did it face similar scrutiny this session?
It did, but it wasn't as narrow of a margin here this afternoon. So Idaho Launch is controversial because you have a group of lawmakers who still do not believe that Idaho should be doing a program like Launch. If you're not familiar with the program, what it does is it gives grants that will cover 80% of tuition and fees at Idaho colleges and technical schools for graduating high school seniors pursuing degrees and certifications in fields that are designated as in demand or needed by the state of Idaho's Workforce Development Council. Some lawmakers think that this is a handout that students don't need. So House Bill 722 would put about $71 million toward fully funding the Idaho Launch Program from the In-Demand Careers Fund. Also, it adds an additional staffer to get the program going. But yes, today was a budget debate just about funding it. But lawmakers, they still got their policy thoughts in. As I mentioned, some legislators, they still believe that Idaho shouldn't be doing this at all. They think that there are different ways to prepare Idaho for the future, and one that doesn't cost taxpayers anything.
In a lot of the industries, they're waiting for the people. Come, they'll train them. But we've created an atmosphere of handouts, and we're going further down that road. And I just do not think that this is a proper role of government. I will definitely be a no, thank you.
If we really want to give the education and CTE and in-demand job opportunities, we should take that money that is right now going to post-secondary funding of education and move that back down into junior high and high school so that all students, not just graduates, can take advantage of that CTE training.
I don't know where this actually ends. I don't know if we end with kids as they graduate. Do we give them credit cards and put money on there and say, okay, here, just be, here you go, have fun?
So conversely, we heard passionate testimony from Idaho lawmakers about the excitement in their district from students and families.
These were first-generation kids. It's going to change the trajectory of their future and their children's future and every generation after that. Just like when I went to school, I was a first-generation graduate with a family that were all farmers for hundreds of years. Never had they ever gone to college. So those trajectories is changing those lives in a big way.
I can tell you as a builder, a developer, projects are getting delayed because we don't have HVAC, we don't have plumbers, we don't have electricians and welders. And so I would hope you would give this your green light for something that goes on right now.
So that proposed legislation, it passed the Idaho House. Now heads to the Senate. It'll start in committee. So maybe some chaos left. Who knows? We will see. Lawmakers still need to do the full education budget. So education funding, that will continue. But a really big day, Brian, in terms of the movement on 521 that will now be on its way to the governor's desk, and 722 clearing the House, which was a major hurdle.
Yep.
It still needs to clear the Senate, though,
Yes.
so we'll see what happens.
Interesting to see if Representative Tanner will have the same argument should a school voucher bill come forward with these last remaining days in the session.
And for those of you wondering, oh, is that done for the year? It is not. I am told there's an appetite at the legislature to do something.
Yep.
At the same time, though, they want to go home and campaign. May primary coming up.
We're told about a week left.
Week from
Possibly.
tomorrow.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Joe. All right. Well, speaking of deals being made at the Statehouse, or at least among the legislature, there was one that happened yesterday that really wasn't behind closed doors. This one was more about matters of the heart also, instead of the state, even if a state senator did have to help facilitate what is already a high-pressure proposal.
He's here to ask one of our Senate pages to prom. His name is Jeffrey Edwards, and he's wanting to ask my constituent from District 21, Kate Payne, to prom. So, Kate, if you're so willing, if you could just maybe blow him a kiss to say yes or something. There we go. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. And thanks for including us in that. It's the first time I've seen that. Does anyone wish to try to top that?
Luckily, they didn't. And thankfully, Kate said yes. A good Jeffrey Edwards was probably thankful that happened as well. So we did bump into Kate outside the Senate chamber today because we wanted to ask her about this, being put on the spot right there in front of everybody. Unfortunately, she was a little too shy to talk about her very public prom date request on camera with us. But when we did ask if James was her boyfriend that asked that, the public promposal, she said, I guess he is now. No pressure, though. It's the kind of stuff Dateline episodes are built around, or even a movie. A shootout as a former inmate helps another inmate escape custody while on a visit to the hospital. The two of them taking a circuitous route around the state of Idaho that is likely connected to two other people being killed. And finally, their capture in Twin Falls. All of that within just the last 2 days. Morgan Romero has details on those arrests and more in today's 411.
We once again want to make known Skylar Mead and Nicholas Umfenauer are in custody.
The two men police were looking for after a shooting that injured 3 corrections officers at St. Alphonsus yesterday morning were arrested. Boise police says they found escaped IDOC inmate Skylar Mead and his accomplice Nicholas Umfenauer in Twin Falls. And around 2 p.m. today, they arrested them separately after a short car chase. Idaho State Police believes the suspects are connected to 2 homicides up north in Clearwater County and Nez Perce County. Law enforcement says both men are part of the Aryan Knights, a white supremacist prison gang. Tune into the news at 6 for the latest. Twin Falls High School senior Cadence Ninsky's senior project came to life. She created a National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline sign near the Twin Falls Visitor Center and the Perrine Bridge. It says, quote, "If you're reading this, the world is a better place with you in it," with the hashtag 988. You can call or text the number 988 24/7 if you or someone you know needs help. The madness is officially here. Maybe you took the day off to watch it. But if you're a Boise State fan, you won't need to, because sadly, the men's team hung up their shoes before the dance even started. They lost last night to the University of Colorado 53-60 in the first 4 game of the NCAA tournament. Boise State has never won a March Madness game. The Boise State women also fell in the opening round of their postseason run. They lost to Montana 66-92. They finished their season with a 21-15 record. We hope you've been enjoying the warmer weather because the foothills sure have. Multiple Ridge to Rivers trails are now open for the season. You can see some of those on your screen. They include Ridgecrest, Siemens Gulch, and Heroes. You can always check out Boise Trail's interactive online map for up-to-date conditions. Remember, do not use muddy trails. The 208 and Governor Brad Little want to wish you a happy National Women in Ag Day. Governor Little tweeted, quote, "Thank you today to all the hardworking Idaho women who strengthen our state and the ag industry." He posted a picture of First Lady Teresa's family, who's tended Idaho's land for over a century. And that's your 411 on the 208. I'm Morgan Romero.
Thank you all very, very much. This is our first show of 3. We play again on Saturday in the Shrine Basement.
What what a difference a day can make, right? We've seen the clouds increase today, the breezy conditions are back and feeling a lot. It is actually quite spring-like to see these changes, but I know we've been enjoying the sunshine and the warmer weather. Overall, we will continue to trend cooler, although through the weekend that means some really mild mornings for us, so thankfully not too chilly. Mentioned the clouds and the breezy conditions, those gusts roughly up to 30, 35 miles an hour today, so that will continue through the weekend as well. And we'll also see a trend coming back with the wetter conditions, and so for mountain locations that will mean more snow this weekend, though it's not looking like it's going to be a lot, roughly 1 to 2 inches. So I mentioned the mild conditions. You can see 50s sticking around all the way as we get close to midnight. So certainly mild for this time of year. We could easily get highs in the 50s rather than low temperatures. But speaking of the low temperatures, again on the mild side, about 45 degrees for valley locations before we warm up close to 70 degrees tomorrow in valley locations. The clouds will be sticking around, though. You can see across the area, we're not seeing quite the ample sunshine that we did have over the past few days, but you can see again, temperatures well above average for this time of year in the mountains. We can expect those in the lower 50s. And then tomorrow gives way to this wetter pattern that I mentioned as a low pressure, and a cold front will move through the area, so bringing some showers on Saturday morning, so things getting a little showery. Again, broadly 1 to 2 inches for the mountain areas. We'll start out with those snow levels around 6,500 feet, and then as the front passes through, we'll see those drop to about 4,500 feet. So we could even see a bit of a rain-snow mix in some of those mountain locations. Overall, though, as I mentioned, temperatures will be trending a little bit on the lower side, getting close to normal for this time of year. We'll see the breezy conditions continue as well. And then as we get into next week, we see temperatures get a little bit on the cooler side, and we could even see a little bit of a rain-snow mix return for the valleys.
So some rain expected for the 4th day of Treefort coming in on Saturday. Just day 2 right now. Don't worry, though, you still have to Sunday to explore all the 13 forts of the 5-day music festival, including Dragfort. Dragfort is not only a drag performance party, it's also a space to celebrate the LGBTQIA+ culture and a place where everyone can just be themselves. That was on full display today when Dragfort hosted a panel discussion of LGBTQ identities of Idaho titled A History of Fear, Oppression, and a Contemporary Framework to Reclaim LGBTQ and Queer Spaces. It was all about creating a dialogue around the queer identities once lost because of fear and oppression. Boise State historian Alicia Grafe spoke specifically about the history of those spaces in downtown Boise that were historically queer, but really don't exist anymore because of fear.
So 1955 is historically called the fall of 55, or the Boys of Boise. And so there was this kind of witch hunt started by the BPD, or Boise Police Department, where they interviewed men who they thought were, having sex, having intercourse with each other, and they were mainly consenting adults who were interviewed about their personal lives, and a lot of them were arrested. About 16 men were arrested and went to jail for crimes against nature, as it was called back then. And so a lot of people lost their jobs, were really scared. These interviews were coming out. People were like, tell us who in your workplace is a gay man, and people would list the people they knew. And so a lot of people moved to San Francisco and Portland and kind of fled the city after that.
Fall of 55, by the way, is a pretty good documentary you should see, done by a former KTVB producer, Seth Randall. Well, Graves said gay Idahoans went into hiding after that until the late 1970s. Then in the 70s and 80s, there were actually 3 times as many gay and queer spaces around town for people. Today, she said there's basically the balcony, which isn't gay-owned. There's the Somewhere Bar in Garden City and some others which aren't explicitly queer. Why? Well, Graves says it's partly because of rising housing costs. There's scandals, as she mentioned, legislation, all of that making it harder to hold on to queer spaces in Idaho. So this is just one of many Dragfort events happening this week. Almost all of the shows, in case you're wondering, because yes, this has been an issue in Idaho, almost all the shows are in 18 or 21 age older places around Boise. You can find the full schedule on our website, ktvb.com, or on the Treefort website. All right, let's wrap up this Thursday with comments you sent in. A lot of people talking about kind of waiting the last week or so of the legislature to get things done, like this one from Robin Napa. Well, after all, the legislators are working on important things. Never too late, I guess. Little was talking kind of fast. Did he say reduce corporate tax rates to increase funding for schools and reduce property taxes? How does that work? Asked David in Boise County. This was actually brought up on the Senate floor with Senator Lenny saying they're expecting these tax cuts to kind of maybe give people more money to then vote yes on a bond, a local school bond, because it won't eliminate those things, but maybe people will be more willing to pay it if their property taxes are then kind of lower. As a parent and now grandparent, I'm excited for Launch. My grandson is getting it to help with his welding school. I wish it was available for his uncles and mom when they were in school, says Lynn. It's a good idea. A lot of people are excited about this. Lynn in there twice. What happened to that one? Oh, whoop. Thank you so much for sharing the love moment in the legislature. It gave me such a huge smile to see those young people be brave and plan for the prom when so much in the legislature and news in general is frustrating. Those little moments of joy are wonderful. Thanks again, says Carolyn Caldwell. Our pleasure. We love doing it. Oh, one last thing. Chris says I have something in my teeth. Let me see. I don't think I do, though. Do I?